Before I dive into the story, I want to thank every one of you beautiful souls who have subscribed to this channel. You give me strength, truly. And to my new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I cannot wait for you to click that button. It fuels me, it keeps this channel alive, and it means everything. Please remember to share your thoughts in the comments after this story. I need to know I am not alone in what I felt that day. Now, back to that night. It was a cool spring evening, and the sun had just started dipping behind the rooftops when my phone rang. I remember because I had just taken a pan of lasagna out of the oven. The scent of tomato, cheese, and oregano still hung thick in the kitchen. But that smell, it would forever be connected to the worst moment of my life. Mrs. Carter? This is Officer Ramirez from Westfield Police Department. We found your daughter, Lily, wandering alone on Hillcrest Avenue. She said she could not find her way home. Can you come pick her up right away? I dropped the phone. Literally. It fell from my hand and clattered onto the tiles like a shot had been fired in the house. Lily. 7 years old. Wandering. 5 miles from our house. I do not even remember grabbing my keys or putting on shoes. My feet were bare. My heart was in my throat. I could hear it in my ears like a war drum as I sped through the neighborhood. When I arrived at the station, Lily was sitting on a hard plastic bench with her pink Crocs dangling off her feet, her blonde hair tangled, and a chocolate stain on her sleeve. She ran to me the second she saw me. My knees buckled as I grabbed her into my arms. Where were you, Mommy? I could not find Nina. I knocked but nobody opened the door, she said, tears running down her red cheeks. Nina. The nanny. My blood went cold. I brought Lily home, heart racing, fury and fear boiling beneath my skin. Brandon's car was in the driveway. Nina's little blue Beetle sat behind it. I picked up Lily, carried her into the house, and set her down gently on the couch. I will be right back, baby, I whispered. She nodded, curled into the blanket I threw over her, and closed her eyes. The silence in the house was eerie. Too quiet. The kind of silence that screams. I walked past the kitchen. The lasagna had cooled. Unbothered. Like nothing had happened. Then I climbed the stairs. Our bedroom door was closed. That was my first clue. Brandon never closed the bedroom door. Not unless. I put my ear to the wood and heard it. The creak of the bed. A soft moan. A giggle. It felt like my body separated from my soul. Like my skin could no longer hold in what I was feeling. I did not knock. I opened the door slowly, praying to be wrong. But there she was. Nina. On top of my husband. Her bare back arched. Her long hair clung to the sweat on her skin. Brandon's hands on her waist. His mouth open. His eyes closed. They did not notice me at first. I stood there. Frozen. Everything in me wanted to scream. But I could not. Because my daughter had been wandering the streets alone while they were too busy wrapped in sheets and sin to notice. Then Nina saw me. She screamed and pulled the sheet over her chest. Brandon blinked like he had been punched in the face. Emily, wait, this is not. I turned and walked out. My legs gave way as I stumbled into the hallway, then the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and collapsed onto the cold tile floor. My stomach heaved. I threw up until my ribs ached. It was not just the betrayal that destroyed me. It was the timing of it. My little girl could have been taken. Hit by a car. Hurt. Anything. And he was inside her nanny while I was outside picking up the pieces of what could have been the end of my daughter's life. I stayed in that bathroom for an hour. I could hear them arguing in hushed tones. Nina crying. Brandon banging lightly on the door, whispering my name. But I did not answer. I stared at myself in the mirror across from the tub. I did not recognize the woman looking back at me. Her face pale. Her eyes hollow. Her lips trembling. I used to be beautiful. Full of laughter. I used to bake cookies with Lily and dance in the kitchen while Brandon watched with a smile. Now I was this. A ghost in my own life. When I finally opened the door, Brandon was sitting at the top of the stairs, head in his hands. I walked right past him. "I will talk tomorrow," I said. He reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "Do not." He nodded like a man who already knew he had lost. I slept next to Lily that night on the couch. I held her so close she woke up twice and whispered, "Mommy, I cannot breathe." But I needed to hold something pure. Something he had not touched. Something that was still mine. The next morning, Nina was gone. But the damage she left behind, it was only just beginning to show. Because that was the day I stopped being a wife. And started being something I never thought I would be. A woman planning revenge. And it would not be quiet. It would not be kind. And it would not be what he expected. I became what I never thought I would. The next morning came with heavy silence. Nina's car was gone. Her toothbrush, jacket, and cosmetics disappeared from the upstairs guest room. She must have packed while I clung to Lily on the couch, rocking my child like she was the only thing anchoring me to the earth. Brandon tried to speak, of course. He made coffee. He stood behind me in the kitchen as I buttered toast for Lily and said, "Emily, please, let me explain." But I was not interested in explanations. The only person I cared to look at that morning was my daughter. Her little fingers gripped the edges of her plate. She had no idea what had happened. I could not let her see me break, not yet. So, I forced a smile while my hands trembled so violently I had to sit down. Later that day, after I dropped Lily off at school, I parked 2 blocks away and sat in my car, staring into space. I watched the steam rise off the lid of my untouched coffee like it was trying to escape just like I wanted to. And that was when the memories began to flood in, pieces I had ignored for too long. Brandon had been distant for months. It started small. He used to call me during his lunch break, just to ask how my day was going. Then those calls stopped. He used to pull me in for a kiss when he got home from work. Then that became a tired, "Hey," from the hallway. His smile had faded. His eyes seemed elsewhere. When I asked if everything was fine, he said, "Just tired, babe." Now I knew what had exhausted him. It was not work. It was her. Nina had entered our lives under the perfect disguise. A 23-year-old college student finishing her degree in early childhood development. Sweet voice. Big blue eyes. Quiet and respectful. She was recommended by one of Brandon's coworkers. That should have been my first clue. Brandon handled the interview. Said it was best to speed things along. I had just recovered from a rough bout of pneumonia, so I agreed. I trusted him. I should not have. One day, I found Nina's lip gloss under the couch. I laughed it off. Another day, I saw her reading a book titled The Art of Subtle Seduction. I thought it was a silly college phase. I blamed everything on myself. Maybe I was not exciting anymore. Maybe I was too focused on being a mother. Maybe I had let go. That guilt? It nearly destroyed me. But the truth? It was never my fault. It was never about me. Brandon wanted what was easy, young, and available. And Nina. Nina had been hungry for what was mine. So I did what I never thought I would do. I stopped crying. And I started planning. First, I searched the drawer in Brandon's office where he kept his old iPad. He never used it anymore, or so he claimed. But when I powered it on, it was still connected to his Apple account. I opened the Photos app. My knees nearly gave out. There were over 50 videos. Short ones. All less than a minute. In each one, Nina was either partially clothed or completely naked, in our bedroom, in the guest room, even once in Lily's bathroom. Some of the videos had Brandon in them. Others looked like she had filmed them while alone. But the captions, that was what ripped me apart. Missing you inside me. Today's treat, Daddy. Daughters at school. Meet me upstairs. Each file had a timestamp. And one of them matched the exact time I had driven Lily to the emergency room for a sprained wrist. He had sent me a text that day, "Hope everything's fine, babe. Keep me updated." While he was filming her play with herself in our bed. I do not remember how long I stood there staring at the screen, but when I looked at the clock, 2 hours had passed. That night, Brandon came home early. He walked into the living room where I was folding Lily's pajamas and sat across from me. "I know I hurt you," he began. "What I did, it was disgusting. I cannot even look at myself. But I want to fix it. I will do anything, Emily." I looked at him with dead eyes. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Let us fix it." He smiled, actually smiled. And that was when I knew he had no idea what was coming. Because I was no longer interested in saving my marriage. I was interested in destroying it, on my terms. And to do that, I needed help. That weekend, Brandon's younger brother, Tyler, came to town. Tyler had always been the opposite of Brandon, more grounded, funnier, never married, no kids. He was the kind of man who made you feel seen when he talked to you. He had once told me, in confidence, "If you ever leave my brother, I hope I get to be the guy who shows you what real love looks like." At the time, I laughed it off. But now? Now, those words echoed in my head. Tyler and I met up for coffee that Saturday. I told him everything. I showed him the videos. He did not speak for a long time. When he finally looked up, there was fire in his eyes. "I always knew Brandon was a snake," he said. He touched my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. "I do not want to take advantage of your pain, he said softly, "but I want to be here for you in any way you need me." I leaned forward. And I kissed him. It was not a kiss of lust. It was not pretty or gentle. It was messy, tear-stained, and desperate. But it was honest. We ended up in the back seat of my car, parked behind the cafe, fumbling like teenagers. His hands were warm. His voice in my ear was steady and slow. He made me feel like a woman again, not a broken wife or a failed mother, but a woman who still had fire in her blood. For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel. And as I lay against his chest afterward, chest heaving and tears drying on my cheeks, I whispered the truth. I do not want him to suffer quietly. I want him to feel it. I want him to lose everything. Tyler kissed my forehead. "Then let us do it right." And in that moment, I knew. I had crossed a line. There would be no going back. And I did not want to. I burned down the house with my silence. Revenge does not always come with flames and fury. Sometimes, it wears the face of a perfect wife, polished nails, a soft smile, a dinner on the table at 6 sharp. That was how I started my final chapter in this marriage. Quietly. After the afternoon with Tyler, something in me shifted. I did not feel ashamed. I felt powerful. Like I had found a piece of myself that Brandon had buried under years of neglect. That night, I came home, tucked Lily into bed, and kissed her forehead like nothing had changed. I walked past Brandon without a word, showered, and slipped into bed beside him like I always had. I could feel him turn toward me. He whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I said nothing. Because he did not realize. I had already left. I just had not packed my bags yet. Over the next 2 weeks, I played my role with Oscar-worthy precision. I cooked his favorite meals. I laughed at his jokes. I wore the perfume he liked. But every day, I worked silently behind the scenes to dismantle everything he thought he had. I had already transferred all the videos and messages from his iPad to a flash drive and saved multiple backups in cloud storage under secret names. I contacted a divorce attorney and started gathering financial documents, bank accounts, investments, property records. I found out he had moved a significant amount of our savings into a separate account under his name. My attorney smiled and said, "Let him think he is smart. We will surprise him in court." I even befriended one of the other moms at Lily's school, Melissa. She was well connected, the PTA president, and happened to run a parenting podcast. I told her everything in confidence. She listened with wide eyes and a shaking hand over her coffee mug. Her exact words were, "Emily, when you decide to go public, I want the exclusive." But I was not interested in telling my story to the world, not yet. I wanted Brandon to crumble in the very house he thought he owned. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Lily's school was hosting a charity gala. It was a big deal, fancy clothes, silent auctions, the whole suburban show. Brandon, trying to repair his image, volunteered to help run the event. He wore his best navy blue suit and practiced his speech in the mirror. He even asked me to stand beside him on stage when he gave a thank you to all the donors. I agreed. Not because I wanted to support him, but because I had the perfect plan. The night of the gala arrived. The gymnasium had been transformed into something that looked like a wedding reception: white tablecloths, fairy lights, music floating softly in the air. I wore a fitted black dress that made people stare. Brandon looked proud to have me on his arm. He squeezed my waist as we posed for pictures. We looked like a power couple. But my heart was stone. After his little speech, the principal gave me the mic to say a few words. I smiled at the crowd, parents, teachers, board members, and began. "Thank you all for being here tonight. It means the world to our children, and to us as families." Then I paused, took a deep breath, and said, "You know, family means honesty, trust, safety." And unfortunately, my own family was recently shaken in a way I never imagined. Brandon turned to look at me, confused. I reached into my small clutch and pulled out a USB stick. "This," I said, holding it up, "contains video footage of my husband having a sexual relationship with our daughter's nanny. During one of their encounters, our 7-year-old daughter wandered the streets alone and was picked up by police. While I was panicking at the station, he was otherwise occupied." Gasps rippled through the audience. I placed the USB on the table. I will be filing for divorce this week. And I want to thank this community for standing by Lily and me as we walk away from this betrayal. Brandon stood frozen, red-faced, lips parted, unable to speak. I walked off stage to stunned silence, picked up Lily from the kids' area, and drove home. I packed that night. Tyler showed up at midnight to help me load boxes into his car. He did not say much. Just held my hand between trips to the trunk. Brandon tried calling. Then texting. Then pounding on the door. I blocked his number. I left behind the wedding album, the love letters, the framed photos. Because I did not need memories anymore. I needed peace. I moved in with Tyler for a while. It was not a fairy tale. It was not perfect. But it was real. He made Lily pancakes in funny shapes. He helped with homework. He kissed me like he meant it, but never rushed me. He let me heal. And slowly, I did. Brandon's reputation crumbled like wet paper. Word spread fast. The PTA moms cut him off. His company issued a formal warning after someone anonymously sent them a copy of the footage. Nina disappeared. I heard she moved back to her parents' house in another state. Last I heard, Brandon was living in a small condo, fighting to keep his license after a client filed harassment claims. But me? I smiled again. I danced in the kitchen with Lily again. I lit candles at dinner, not to impress, but to enjoy. I became the woman I had buried to survive a lie. And in the silence that followed, in the wreckage I left behind, I felt free.